Hi there. My name is Ada. I'm a professional astrologer, and today I'm going to share with you how I do relationship astrology readings by looking at the chart of Bill Gates. I'm doing this because I do astrology readings a bit differently than you might be used to on several levels. First, you might be used to astrologers who do consultations where you book an appointment with them and you sit down with them either in person or over Zoom and you talk about your chart back and forth in a conversation. Personally, I have found that style of astrology reading a little bit intimidating. I've gotten a couple of them and I've worked one-on-one with a mentor, but overall, I prefer to get information from a reading via recording so that I can process it on my own, even though it makes things a bit harder for the astrologer in question. So those are the kinds of readings that I want to do. I try to make astrology accessible for people. As a rule, like across the board, everything I do is trying to make astrology accessible. And so I do readings that allow you to interact with the things that I have to say on your own. You can play them back. You can come back to them later. And you don't have the pressure of having to sit there and have a conversation with someone you don't know about something that is vulnerable. The other way that my readings are different is that I don't approach the symbols the way many other astrologers do. Instead of asking what's going to happen to you, I ask what you need to be happy. Now, that means that my focus is a lot less on prediction. I can look at your chart and tell you if it's a good time for you to start a new relationship, or if you're focused ideally on things that are more ongoing or focused on yourself. But I'm a lot more interested in the question of what individuals need to be happy. So when I'm looking at a chart, I'm a lot more interested in giving you an overview of who you are as a person and what you need to be happy, that affirms your individuality and makes you feel as though you have choices. And so I'm going to demonstrate that style of reading by looking at the chart of the former executive of Microsoft, Bill Gates. When I do readings, I do them exactly this way. I grab a copy of the birth chart and I jump on camera. So what you're about to see is what you would see if I was doing this reading for Bill Gates. So I'm prefacing that because it's about to get a little weird. I'm going to be talking to you as if I'm talking to Bill Gates, but I'm doing this to demonstrate how I do readings. So let the games begin. Hi, Bill. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to look at your chart. As you've probably noticed by now, I'm recording this reading on a Mac, and I hope you can forgive me that. When I start any reading, I like to start with the big three. The big three are like the pillars of your personality. They are the things that really dominate your character. They're needs that drive you more than anything else. The three needs are the sun, which represents the ego, the moon, which represents emotional needs, and the rising sign, which represents the way of relating to people one-on-one that is going to be most satisfying for you, is going to be most likely to get you what you want, and is going to be most likely, once you learn how to wear this mask comfortably, the way of relating to people that is going to make them the most comfortable as well. In your chart, the moon is the most important. It's the thing that people see the most, and it is the most powerful force in your chart. And that is your warrior heart. You are old enough now to have seen how that plays out. And people look at you, and if they're old enough, they see a pirate of Silicon Valley. The heart of a warrior is someone who needs to go out into the world and carve out a territory. They're a person who needs to conquer, who needs to go their own way, and who needs to carve out a life for themselves where they have a great degree of independence. And given that's your moon, that is an emotional need for you, and it is something that you need in order to be happy. And you in particular have the moon way up at the top of your chart. If you were thinking about the sky at the moment that you were born, the moon would be way up high in the sky, and it would be very easy for people to see. And so this is a part of you that is visible to people who don't know you very well, people who look at you from afar, who only know you as the former CEO of Microsoft, see that warrior spirit. And so your ability to get those needs met are going to, it is going to be visible to everyone. If you're successful, they'll see it. If they're not successful, they'll see that too. And you've probably known that since you were very small. The other planet that we call a luminary is the sun. And most of the time, astrology starts with the sun. And in your case, you have probably had a hard time identifying with sun sign horoscopes. And that is because you were born at 10 o'clock, and at the moment that you were born, the sun wasn't visible. It was on the other side of the world. It was almost as far away from being visible as it can possibly be. And so for you, the motives of the sun, the motives of the ego are personal. You hold them close to your chest, and they are parts of you that people are unlikely to see unless they know you very well. And in your case, the sun is in Scorpio, and a Scorpio sun has a need for power, which can be expressed through that Aries moon rather easily. And so people probably look at you and see that Scorpio sun and go, oh, I understand everything there is to know about Bill Gates. And you probably hear that and smirk and go, absolutely not. Because there's another side to Scorpio that people don't often talk about, which is the intense need for intensity and intimacy. One of the things that Aries and Scorpio have in common is an intense need to feel like they are alive and to feel as if they are living with authenticity, and to make choices that are true to them regardless of the consequences. And I suspect those driving needs are the things that you are more likely to relate to, and less the sorcerer, psychologically manipulative side of Scorpio that you tend to hear about in horoscopes. The last pillar of the big three is your Cancer rising. Now, this is a part of you that is only going to be visible to people who know you and meet you face to face. And it represents parts of your personality that are likely to be very surprising to people. Because you have those very intense luminaries, those the moon in Aries and the sun in Scorpio, people are going to expect you to be that intense in person. And I have never met you in person, but I suspect that the way of relating to people that is going to feel most comfortable to you, if you can figure out how to integrate it with those more intense signatures, is going to be more quiet, more personable, more caring, almost nurturing. Now, if you have a hard time stepping into that, And it would be absolutely understandable if you did. Those qualities could turn into qualities that are a bit more like a hermit crab. Um, when you're moody, you might have the tendency to be a bit snappy. You might play your cards close to your chest and not reveal yourself very easily to people. How you express that Cancer ascendant is going to determine a lot how people who know you personally relate to you. So you have some choices about that. As a person who moves through the world with a lot of fame and power, it may be in your best interest to act like that crab and not be accessible and available to people. You may find that you need a really thick shell. But if you can access those other sides of Cancer that are kind and nurturing and emotionally sensitive, you're going to find that your relationships with the people who can see that side of you are going to be a lot more satisfying. The reason for that is because of the needs that you have around relationships. Now, relationships are always going to be challenging for you. I think I can say that with a great deal of confidence. The reason is because you have intense relationship needs. You have a lot of activity in the house of home, which means that the relationships with people with whom you share a home are going to be intensely important to you. A lot of the drama in your life is actually going to be around your home and around with people you share a home with. Those can be the people that you shared a home with when you were young, your family of origin, or people that you choose to live with when you're older. And making choices that support harmony and allow you to be emotionally vulnerable at home are very important to you. If you find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of discord at home and you feel as though you can't ever let your guard down, that's not good for anybody, but for you, it's going to feel like you're in a story that's lost the plot. And finding a way to fix that is going to be very important. At the same time, you have these needs for deeply personal, intimate relationships, but you also have this incredibly intense need for relationships in which you find pleasure, friendship relationships, lovers, really casual relationships. Your drive for relationships and your drive for pleasure is really oriented around those types of relationships. But at the same time, you can see how we're going back and forth. Yes, and yes, and yes, but. At the same time, you need these relationships to be long-lasting. You have, in astrology, you have Saturn directly on top of your Venus. And it might help to think about this in terms of the gods. The god Saturn, in the old god with almost like the classical Judeo-Christian god with the white beard and the father figure. With Venus, it's like they're in the same room together in your life all the time. You have, in relationships, you have that need for maybe to be seen as a Saturnine figure, to be seen as the older, wiser figure to the Venus in your life who's very important to you. It can also express itself as a need for long-lasting relationships. Saturn really likes things that last. And so how do you get those two needs met? Because they do represent fundamentally different needs. Light, pleasure, casual, the kind of energy that you get around datings and hookups on the one hand, and also this intense need to build something solid with your relationships. How do you navigate between the two? It's a one of the central questions of your life. As an astrologer, my advice to you is to think really deeply about the emotional needs that you're trying to meet in your relationships. Having relationships with people that are either friends or romantic interests that have a great deal of depth is incredibly important to you. And it's a side of you that people are not going to see in public, but you need to honor them. You need to honor that need. And so, how do you do that? One of the ways that you can do that is by building a home with people that you care about. One of the ways that you can do that is by finding balance between those two needs, the needs for the casual and the need for the commitment. And another way that you can do that is by thinking. Thought is very important to you. I mean, that seems rather obvious given your career, but people with whom you have an intellectual connection are very important for your relationships, particularly with the people that you live with. So having honest conversations with the people that you live with about these deep emotional complexities and your need to find balance in a way that honors yourself and honors the people that you're in relationship with. If you can have those conversations with someone who you really deeply trust, you are going to be in a much better position than if you live in hermit crab mode all of the time and keep things close to your chest. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to do this reading for you. And if you have any questions about the reading or would like to discuss it with me, you're welcome to message me. Thank you. So that's it. If you get a relationship astrology reading from me, that is roughly what it will look like. I will talk at the camera for about 15 minutes about you and your chart, talk about what you need to be happy, and give you a little bit of advice based on what I see in your chart, and then you can do with it what you will. If you're interested in getting a reading for yourself, I have a link to my website, and I hope you will consider getting a reading from me.